The Forgotten Guardians. The Galactic Concordat had stood for over 300 years, 7 major species, 19 minor ones, and then humans. Nobody quite knew where to classify them. Too stubborn to be conquered, too fractious to truly unite, too innovative to be ignored, but too small to be feared. When the great powers divided the galaxy into spheres of influence, humanity received what nobody else wanted: the Outer Rim, a sparse collection of resource-poor systems on the edge of the dark expanse. Commander Ilara Voss stood on the observation deck of the GCS Arbitrator, watching the unremarkable blue-green world of Harbinger rotate slowly beneath them. Her reflection in the viewport showed a woman with sharp features, close-cropped black hair, and the silver-blue uniform of the Concordat Expeditionary Force. The mission patch on her shoulder, depicting 7 stars in formation, was a reminder of who truly held power. "Commander, Overseer Thrix requests your presence in the briefing room." Her calm officer's voice interrupted her thoughts. Ilara sighed. "Tell him I'll be right there." Overseer Call Thrix was a Valari, tall, gaunt, with iridescent scales and 6-fingered hands that never seemed to stop moving. Like all his kind, he considered humans to be useful tools at best. Dangerous, unpredictable tools. "You're late, Commander," Thrix said as she entered. His voice carried the musical undertones all Valari speech possessed, but there was nothing melodious about his mood. "Apologies, Overseer. I was reviewing the planetary scans." And the Valari's secondary eyelids flickered, a sign of impatience. "It's as we suspected. The energy signature is artificial, deep underground. Preliminary readings suggest it predates Concordat standardization. It's old." Thrix's fingers steepled. "Human old?" "Possibly. The site corresponds with historical records of a human research facility from before the Accords. The Accords that your people signed after their failed expansion," Thrix reminded her unnecessarily, "limiting human military capability to defensive purposes only." Ilara didn't rise to the bait. The facility was officially decommissioned and stripped bare. It shouldn't be emitting anything. And yet here we are. Thrix projected a 3-dimensional map into the center of the room. "The Concordat Council is concerned. This sector borders 3 major trading routes. If humans have been concealing military technology in violation of the Accords, then you'll have justification to further restrict human autonomy." Ilara finished for him. "With respect, Overseer, we don't know what's down there. Which is why you'll leave the ground team, Commander." Thrix's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Your genetic signature should bypass any remaining human security protocols." The descent to Harbinger's surface was rough. Storms lashed the shuttle, and visibility dropped to near zero as they approached the coordinates. The facility entrance was hidden in the side of a mountain range, reclaimed by nature over the centuries. "Picking up unusual readings, Commander," Lieutenant Park said from the sensor station. "The energy signature is fluctuating, almost like it's responding to our presence." Beside him, their Morgan security officer, Grask, growled low in his throat. Standing over 7 feet tall with armor-like skin, Morgans were the Concordat's enforcers. "Could be a trap." "If it is, it's 300 years in the making," Ilara replied, checking her sidearm. "A standard-issue pulse pistol. Not that it would do much good against whatever might be waiting for them." They landed half a kilometer from the facility entrance. Rain pounded them as they trudged through the mud and undergrowth. The entrance itself was a simple metal door set into the mountainside, partially covered by vines and moss. "No markings," Park observed. "No warnings." "That's not the human way," Grask said. "Your people prefer to hide things in plain sight." Ilara approached the door. There was no visible keypad or scanner, just smooth, weathered metal. She placed her palm against it. Nothing happened. Perhaps the records were wrong. Thrix's voice came through their comms. Or perhaps this facility belongs to another. The door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Lights flickered on inside, illuminating a corridor that stretched deep into the mountain. Automated systems still operational after all this time, Park whispered, impressed despite himself. Concordat technology would have failed within decades without maintenance, Grask added. Ilara stepped forward, and the others followed. The corridor led them deeper, past empty rooms and abandoned workstations. Everything of value had been removed, or so it seemed. The energy signature is getting stronger, Park reported, consulting his scanner. 200 meters ahead, they reached a large circular door at the end of the corridor. Unlike the entrance, this one was marked, the ancient Earth symbol for danger etched into the metal. Commander, Thrix's voice crackled over the comm. Before you proceed, I want to be absolutely clear about your orders. You are to document whatever you find, but touch nothing. If this is indeed restricted military technology, it falls under Concordat jurisdiction. Understood, Overseer. Ilara placed her hand on the scanner beside the door. Again, it recognized her human DNA, and the massive door began to rotate open. The chamber beyond took her breath away. It was enormous, carved directly from the mountain's heart, and it wasn't empty. Suspended in the center, held by massive support structures, was a ship, but not like any ship Ilara had ever seen in the human fleet. This vessel was sleek yet angular, built not for show but for war. Its hull was dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. No windows, minimal sensor arrays, but weapons emplacements that even after centuries made Grask step back involuntarily. What is that? Park whispered. Humanity's insurance policy, a new voice answered. They spun around. Standing on a platform above them was a man in a simple gray uniform with no insignia. He appeared middle-aged, with close-cropped gray hair and the weathered look of someone who had seen too much. This facility is restricted, the stranger continued. You shouldn't be here. Ilara found her voice. This facility was decommissioned 300 years ago. Who are you? Guardian Alexei Komarov, at your service. He gave a small, mocking bow. And you are trespassing on sovereign human territory. There is no sovereign human territory, Grask growled. All human installations fall under Concordat oversight as per the Accords. The Accords, Komarov said with a faint smile, were carefully worded. They restricted human military expansion and production of new offensive technology. They said nothing about what we had already built and hidden away. Ilara's mind raced. You're saying this ship predates the Accords? That's impossible. The Concordat cataloged all human military assets. All that we revealed, Komarov corrected. Did you really think we would surrender everything? That we would leave ourselves defenseless in a galaxy that barely tolerated our existence? Thrix's voice cut through the comm. Commander, detain this individual immediately. He is admitting to violations of interstellar law. But Ilara hesitated. Something about this didn't add up. If what you're saying is true, why reveal it now? Why not keep hiding? Komarov's expression grew serious. Because hiding time is over. You've detected our activation sequence because it's meant to be detected now. Activation. Park looked at his scanner in alarm. Commander, energy readings are spiking across the facility. What are you activating? Ilara demanded. Not just here, Komarov said. Everywhere. 217 facilities across the outer rim and beyond. The Harbinger network is coming online after 3 centuries of dormancy. Why now? Ilara demanded, her hand moving to her weapon. You haven't been monitoring the dark expanse, have you? Komarov asked. Too busy maintaining your precious Concordat power structure. We have. We've always watched the darkness. And now something's watching back. As if on cue, alarms began to sound, not from the facility, but from their comm units. Commander, Thrix's voice was tight with panic. Return to the ship immediately. We're detecting multiple unknown vessels emerging from the dark expanse. They're not responding to hails and are moving directly toward Concordat space. Komarov looked unsurprised. They've been probing our defenses for decades, small incursions, testing our response. Today, they come in force. What are they? Park asked. We don't know. We call them the Void Fleet. No communication, no mercy, just hunger. Conventional Concordat forces can't stop them. We've run the simulations thousands of times. And you can. Grask scoffed. Komarov gestured to the ship hanging above them. The Nemesis class was designed to fight enemies beyond our understanding. It can adapt, evolve during battle. Along with the other ships in the network, they're humanity's contribution to galactic security, whether the Concordat acknowledges it or not. Ilara's comm unit lit up with urgent priority messages, reports of attacks on outer Concordat outposts, bizarre ships that absorbed energy weapons and shrugged off physical impacts. Overseer, she said, we need to reconsider our position here. Your position is to follow orders, Commander, Thrix snapped. To tame the human and secure that facility for Concordat forces. Ilara looked at Komarov, then at the ship, humanity's secret weapon, kept hidden against the day it might be needed. Against this very day. No, she said finally. Overseer, I recommend we accept Guardian Komarov's assistance. If these void ships are as formidable as early reports suggest, we need every advantage. This is treason, Commander. The Concordat will not. The Concordat will not exist if these invaders aren't stopped. Ilara cut him off. She turned to Komarov. What do you need from us? The Guardian's face showed respect for the first time. Nothing. Just stay out of our way. He pressed a sequence on his wrist device, and the massive ship above them hummed to life, lights appearing along its hull. The Harbinger network is awakening, Komarov said. Humanity kept our promise. We didn't expand our military. We simply waited and prepared. As the ship began to disengage from its support structures, Ilara realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. The human race, long dismissed as a secondary power, had been playing a much longer game than anyone suspected. And now, the true test of their foresight was about to begin. The rising tide. The Concordat emergency session was chaos. Representatives from all 7 major species shouted over one another, while tactical displays showed the advancing Void Fleet cutting through their outer defenses like they weren't even there. Ilara stood at the back of the Grand Chamber, watching the panic unfold. The Del Mari outpost has gone silent, announced a harried communications officer. That's the 3rd one in 6 hours. High Counselor Zendra, a Philasian with luminescent tendrils framing her face, raised her hands for silence. What we face is unprecedented. These void vessels absorb our energy weapons, and their hulls regenerate from physical damage. Our fleets report minimal effectiveness. And meanwhile, Overseer Thrix ist, pointing directly at Ilara, this human commander has activated illegal weapon systems without authorization. She should be court-martialed immediately. Is this true, Commander Voss? Zender asked, her voice cutting through the chamber. Ilara stepped forward. I activated nothing, High Counselor. The Human Defense Network activated itself in response to the Void incursion. I merely chose not to interfere with our best chance at survival. Best chance? A Morrigan representative scoffed. Hidden ships operated by a skeleton crew of, what did you call them? Guardians? 217 vessels, Ilara corrected him. Not just ships, combat systems unlike anything in our current arsenals, and not a skeleton crew, but specially trained teams kept in rotation for centuries, preparing for exactly this scenario. If such a force existed, the Valeri ambassador said coldly, it would constitute a direct violation of the Accords. Humanity agreed to limitations on military capability. No, came a new voice. The chamber doors had opened to admit Alexei Komarov, now dressed in a formal gray uniform with a single silver insignia, a shield with a star at its center. We agreed to limitations on expansion and new development. The Harbinger network was already complete when the Accords were signed. This is outrageous. Fricks exploded. This human has no authority to address the council. I speak with the authority of the Human Defense Initiative, Komarov replied calmly, an organization that has operated continuously since before first contact with any of your species. High Counselor Zendra studied him. You deliberately concealed military assets. We concealed our insurance policy, Komarov corrected, while accepting limitations that left regular human forces vulnerable and dependent on Concordat protection, a protection that is currently failing against the Void Fleet. As if to emphasize his point, another alert sounded. The tactical display showed 3 more Concordat vessels destroyed. We face extinction, Zendra said quietly. If these void ships cannot be stopped, they can be. Komarov stepped to the center of the chamber. The Harbinger network was designed to adapt and counter unknown threats. Our ships are already engaging the enemy. He activated his wrist device, and the main display changed to show a real-time battle. A sleek, dark vessel, similar to the one Ilara had seen in the mountain facility, was engaging 2 void ships. Unlike the Concordat vessels, this human ship moved differently, its weapons shifting configuration between salvos, learning with each exchange. The chamber fell silent as they watched the impossible. The human vessel wasn't just holding its own, it was winning. One ship, the Morrigan representative whispered, one ship doing what a Concordat battle group couldn't. The Nemesis-class vessels were designed as intelligent weapons, Komarov explained. They analyze attack patterns and adapt. The longer they fight, the more effective they become. And you hid this technology from the Concordat for 3 centuries, Fricks demanded. Would you have allowed us to keep it if you'd known? Ilara asked him directly. Or would you have demanded we surrender it to Concordat control? The silence was answer enough. Admiral Jaron Kirsch of the Human Defense Initiative stood on the command deck of the HDI Vindicator, watching as his fleet engaged the void vessels at coordinates that had once marked the outer boundary of Concordat space. At 63, Kirsch was one of the oldest active commanders in the initiative, a position earned through decades of silent service, training for a war everyone hoped would never come. The Concordat 7th Fleet is requesting permission to join formation with us, his communications officer reported. Kirsch raised an eyebrow. Are they indeed? Tell them they can observe from safe distance. We don't need them getting in our firing solutions. Yes, sir. The adaptive response matrix is showing 68% effectiveness against void shielding now. The countermeasures are working. On the main display, Kirsch could see the battle unfolding. 17 Harbinger vessels against 32 void ships. The odds should have been impossible, but the Nemesis-class vessels were performing beyond even their design parameters. They learned, they adapted, they communicated their findings to each other in encrypted bursts. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the Void Fleet is adjusting formation. They appear to be retreating. They're not retreating, Kirsch corrected. They're regrouping. This was just a probing attack. They wanted to assess our capabilities. Then they got more than they bargained for, his XO said with satisfaction. Perhaps. Kirsch wasn't so sure. The Void Fleet had withdrawn too easily, almost as if, position our long-range sensors toward the dark expanse. I want to know what's coming next. Back in the Concordat Council chamber, the atmosphere had shifted from panic to stunned calculation. The initial void attack had been repelled, but at the cost of exposing humanity's greatest secret. The human ships are regrouping at these coordinates, a Philasian admiral was explaining. They appear to be establishing a defensive line between our core systems and the dark expanse. How generous of them, Fricks said acidly. After centuries of deception, they now position themselves as our saviors. Would you prefer the alternative? Komarov asked. We could recall our ships and leave you to face the void alone. Enough, High Counselor Zendra interrupted. Guardian Komarov, the Council recognizes that humanity's foresight may have saved countless lives today. But this revelation raises serious questions about the foundation of our alliance. The foundation of our alliance, Ilara said, stepping forward, was built on the assumption that humanity needed the Concordat more than the Concordat needed humanity. Today proves otherwise. Are you suggesting a renegotiation? The Morrigan representative growled. I'm suggesting reality has changed, Ilara replied. The void threat is real. Humanity has the means to fight it. The Concordat does not. Where we go from here should reflect this new understanding. The chamber doors opened again, and a human woman entered. She wore the same gray uniform as Komarov, but with additional insignia. Her presence commanded immediate attention. Director Kalia Chen, Human Defense Initiative. She introduced herself. I've been authorized to speak directly with the Concordat Council regarding our mutual defense. Director, Zender acknowledged. Your timing is opportune. We were just discussing the implications of today's events. Then let me be clear, Chen said, her voice firm but not hostile. The Harbinger Network was created to defend humanity against existential threats. The void qualifies. We will deploy our full capabilities against this enemy, with or without Concordat approval. You speak as if you have a choice, Fricks snapped. Once this crisis is resolved, the Concordat will require full disclosure and surrender of all hidden military assets. Chen's smile was cold. Overseer Thrix, you misunderstand. We're not asking for permission. We're offering cooperation. A tense silence filled the chamber. What exactly are you proposing? Zender asked carefully. A new arrangement, Chen replied. The Harbinger Network remains under human control, but we coordinate defensive strategies with the Concordat. You provide logistical support, intelligence, and diplomatic backing. In return, we extend our protection to all Concordat worlds. Protection implies control, the Morrigan representative observed. It implies partnership, Chen corrected. One where all parties contribute according to their strengths. Ours happens to be advanced defensive capability. Yours might be something else. And if we refuse, Fricks demanded, then we protect human interests only, Chen said simply, and redraw the boundaries of what constitutes human space according to our ability to defend it. The implications hung in the air. After centuries as a secondary power, humanity was asserting itself, not through aggression, but through necessity. On the observation deck of the GCS Arbitrator, Ilara found a moment of quiet. The ship was in formation with the human defensive line, an arrangement that would have been unthinkable just days ago. Commander, a voice said behind her. She turned to find Komarov approaching. Guardian, she acknowledged. Or should I say, Commander Komarov. He smiled faintly. Guardian is fine. We don't stand on ceremony in the initiative. Just maintain secret fleets for centuries, she observed. Someone had to. He moved to stand beside her, looking out at the stars. Humanity was never going to be accepted as an equal in the Concordat, not without proving our worth. And now the galaxy changes. He turned to face her. Director Chen has asked for you specifically to serve as liaison between Concordat forces and the Harbinger Network. Ilara raised an eyebrow. Has she? And what does Overseer Thrix think of that? Overseer Thrix has been reassigned. The Concordat Council is restructuring its military command to better integrate with human defenses. That was fast. Fear is a powerful motivator, Komarov observed. They've seen what the Void can do, and they've seen what we can do. The choice becomes simple. Ilara studied the man before her. You've waited a long time for this, haven't you? For humanity to step out of the shadows. We've waited for the right moment, he corrected. Not for dominance, but for partnership, true partnership. And the Void, was that part of the plan too? No, Komarov said seriously. The Void is real, and more dangerous than today's skirmish suggests. We've been tracking their movements for decades. What comes next will test us all, human and Concordat alike. As if summoned by his words, an alert sounded. They both turned to the viewport as space itself seemed to ripple. A massive portal was forming at the edge of the dark expanse. "And so it begins," Komarov said softly. "The true test." Through the portal, ships began to emerge. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The Void Fleet in all its terrible glory. But they would not face a disunited galaxy. Already, the Harbinger network was moving into formation, sleek dark ships positioning themselves as the first line of defense. Behind them, the restructured Concordat fleets prepared to provide support. "Will it be enough?" Ilara asked, watching the forces align. "I don't know," Komarov admitted. "But humanity didn't hide away our best weapons and wait 300 years just to lose now." As the human ships engaged the vanguard of the Void Fleet, Ilara understood that whatever happened next, the galaxy had already changed forever. Humanity had stepped from the shadows, not as conquerors, but as guardians, revealing power not to dominate, but to protect. The old balance was gone. A new one would take its place, and at its center would stand the species that everyone had underestimated, the humans who had played the longest game of all.